Okay, so First Descendants, I've noticed a few issues with the game's graphical settings. So you can probably see here in the video, it's a bit choppy. It's running at 47 FPS. This is DLAA at the moment, so I'm only using DLAA for the moment to demonstrate what I've observed in the game. So I will change that in a moment and just show you what I've learned. I'm going to go to an area where I can show what I've been observing better. So this bit's a good area to demonstrate that with. So we've got good shadows there and it all looks okay. Now keep an eye around the edges and the shadow areas as well. So I'm going to focus on that in a moment. So this is DLAA. If I just go into the settings, DLAA, Ray Trace Ultra, Ray Reconstruction is on, Frame Gen is off. Visually there's no difference with Frame Gen on or off, but I just like to keep the FPS a bit lower just to show what the differences are between all the modes that I'll go through in a moment as well. Now I'm going to turn off Ray Reconstruction in a moment, so just take another look at it again with Ray Reconstruction on. So this is DLSS 3.5. I haven't changed the DLL files, by the way. You can't do that. The game just locks out all Nvidia settings if you do that. So this is version 3.7.0. So just take a look around the whole scene. Everything looks clean. There's no sort of garbling. On the bottom right, in some of the shadow areas, you can see a bit of warping. I believe that's software lumens artifacting. So that's to be expected. That's normal. So that's no problem at all. So now I'm going to go ahead and turn off Ray Reconstruction and just keep an eye on the reflections again. That looks fine. And again, no issues with warping or garbling or anything like that. I'm going to turn on ray tracing to high from ultra. And now we have an issue with shadows and the reflections of that shadow. It looks like I'm floating a few inches above the ground there. And you can see the shadows are doing that slideshow stair step effect, which is strange. And the FPS is 74. So if I put ray tracing back to ultra, shadows are back and reflections are back as well. Now if I turn on, the FPS has dropped slightly as well, so 4 FPS drop. If I turn on ray reconstruction, we actually lose frame rates by turning on ray reconstruction, which makes no sense whatsoever. In every other game that I've used with ray reconstruction, FPS goes up by about 4 or 5 FPS, sometimes 10 at a max. For example, Alienware 2. So that's really strange. So we turn off ray reconstruction again. We regain our FPS. And visually it looks identical. There's no garbling or anything like that. If I use DLSS Quality and leave it on Ray Trace Ultra, Ray Reconstruction on, now you can see there's a lot of garbling going on. The artifacting on the bottom right in the shadowed area is more obvious. And all along the bottom edge of the screen, you can see there's artifacting. So that's something I've not seen in other games before. So it's like as if DLSS is not being implemented properly in this game. Now, I'm going to switch over to FSR 3 and FSR 3 Quality. Obviously we can't use ray reconstruction in this. Ray Traced Ultra. Look at how clean that is. Obviously there's a bit of, on that pillar on just to the right of the character, the dark pillar, the vertical one, there's a bit of shimmering going on there, but that's typical of FSR anyway. But there's no edge garbling, no artifacting that's obvious either, and it seems the shadowy area on the bottom right has cleaned up as well. So for some reason FSR is doing a better job in this, and the FPS is 85 as well. Whereas with DLSS Quality, keep in mind the internal resolution for between quality modes between all the upscalers is slightly different anyway. 84, so 82. So yeah, FPS seems about the same, but in camera motion, DLSS quality seems smoother. But obviously we've got that artifacting going on with the edge shadows and things. Go back to FSR. Actually, before I do that, keep an eye on the frame rate with DLSS. I'll leave ray reconstruction off. So it's 71 FPS with DLAA. It's native rendering. Now if I go to AMD NativeAA, 68, 69, 70 FPS. So it's more or less the same frame rate, but it doesn't feel as smooth moving the camera around. Go back to DLAA. I'll turn ray reconstruction on. So we've lost FPS, 55, 56 FPS, 54, 55. And if I go back to AMD NativeAA, 68, 67 FPS, but it doesn't feel as smooth. There's juddering, visual juddering that I can feel, that I can see. I don't know if it will translate in the video. So yeah, this is really strange. Let's try FSR Intel NativeAA. So this feels the same as FSR NativeAA, and we've got 68 FPS. Let's go back to DLAA and ray reconstruction off. 68, 69, 70, so a couple of FPS higher, and it feels a bit smoother. And the reflections are all there. So yeah, it's weird. Ray reconstruction seems to cause issues in this game with frame rates. Anyway, you lose almost 10 FPS just enabling it. And visually, DLSS quality, which is unusual, seems to have edge garbling issues that you can see there on the bottom, all along the bottom edge. So I guess the best thing to do is use native rendering, either DLAA or AMD NativeAA, with frame generation and ray reconstruction off. And now we have even smoother FPS and over 100 FPS, smoother camera motion and over 100 FPS, and none of the issues. Let's just, I just want to test a theory quick. So if I go back to AMD FSR Quality and ray tracing high, yeah, so it's doing the same with FSR as well. Does it do the same with native? Yes. So you need to have ray tracing on ultra to not have broken shadows. If I turn ray tracing off completely, it still remains broken. And if I switch to Nvidia DLSS Quality, and we've got the garbling back on the edge, and shadows are still broken. So yeah, ray tracing needs to be on ultra regardless of what settings you use. So even if I use internal TSR, yeah, and then turn off ray tracing, and it's broken again. So yeah, it looks like this game needs ray tracing. So yeah, it appears no matter what mode you use, shadows in some form are broken. It's just less broken when using ray tracing. So if I turn ray tracing off, yeah, it's just That's just visually distracting. Ray tracing ultra, so I guess the best settings to use then are NativeAA FSR with FSR FrameGen. But there is a bit more input latency that I can feel with FSR FrameGen enabled versus, even though the frame rate is 109, 112. So if I do DLAA with FrameGen on, ray reconstruction off, yeah, this feels more responsive. So I think the best option at the moment is DLAA with FrameGen, reflex is grayed on anyway, and keep ray reconstruction off, because now we lose frames, 94 FPS, and it doesn't feel so smooth again. Turn reconstruction off, and it's smoother. Yeah, so I don't know what's going on there. But the other thing to note is with FrameGen on, whether you're AMD or FSR, when the game loads or when you load certain areas of the map, you do get some weird juddering of the screen when you're moving it around, so you need to go into settings, toggle it off, then on again, and then back into the game, then it's fine. So it seems all the graphics options are bugged in this game. Otherwise, it's a very well detailed game world.